Welcome to our first CMMC Roundtable of 2025, a special one. We have Jamie joining us from PreVeil. I want to share some good information about the CMMC solutions that PreVeil offers to help defense contractors satisfy their CMMC requirements. They has a couple slides we're going to present and then open it up for questions and conversation. At the end of this roundtable, we have some exciting information to share. A partnership that PreVeil and CPN are forming to provide some exciting activities for CPN members. Welcome, Jamie. How are you?
Hey, thanks, Derek. Doing well. Hope everyone had a great holidays, and I guess now it's back to the grind. So thanks, everyone, for taking some time here to learn a little bit more about PreVeil. I'm the Director of Channels and Alliances here at PreVeil. I've been with the company almost 7 years, and my role, I'm really focused on the overall partner program, but my focus is really on working with those partners that can help our customers achieve CMMC compliance. And that ranges anywhere from RPOs, MSPs, MSSPs, as well as our C3PAO partner network. So really any customer that needs support for CMMC that requires a third party, those are the folks that, I help bring to the table. So I thought today, I'd just spend a few minutes giving you a little background on who PreVeil is, how we help customers achieve CMMC compliance, a little bit about our platform, as well as some of our other compliance support that we offer. And I'll then do a quick demo and open it up to Q&A. So with that said, let me just go ahead and share out my PowerPoint. We'll just start with about 50 or so pages to go through. No, I'm kidding. I'm not much of a slide person, but I do just want to go through a few of these to give you a better sense of, who PreVeil is, what are the customers that we typically support, and, how are we helping the ecosystem. So quite simply, PreVeil, it's a platform for storing, sharing, transmitting CUI. Our platform is end-to-end encrypted. We, again, do meet the FedRAMP moderate equivalent requirements. We maintain that rigorously through our compliance department. And we also provide a lot of compliance documentation through what we call PreVeil Compliance Accelerator. That's really designed to give end users some training, some material, documentation to help accelerate their compliance journey. Certainly not designed to replace the needs of consultants and things like that, but really just help to augment what they're trying to accomplish. And then, of course, we heavily rely on our partner community to help our customers achieve compliance, both through the RPO community, through MSPs, MSSPs, as well as our C3PAO partner community, which are select C3PAOs that have gone ahead and really spent the time to better understand the PreVeil platform, as well as all of our documentation.
So, Jamie, I did hear at one point there was some debate about your FedRAMP equivalency. What's the story behind that, and what's the latest? Because I know it's kind of like yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes.
Great question. So we were the first CSP to be designated FedRAMP moderate equivalent by both DIBCAC and DoD, and that was in February of 2024. We received a letter from them. They agreed to everything. We were great at that point. And then there was one particular DIBCAC assessor in, I want to say, August of 2024 that questioned one specific scan, and it was a credentialed scan. Of course, the PreVeil platform does not use credentials. Instead, we use cryptographic authentication. But because we weren't doing a credentialed scan on a system that doesn't allow credentials, he raised a red flag. Our FedRAMP 3PAO said that what they were claiming was not accurate. But regardless, they put a pause on our equivalency for a period of about 4 weeks. And in the meantime, we actually created a credentialed scan. Quite frankly, we think it introduces unnecessary vulnerability into the system. That is what they required. So within 4 to 6 weeks, I would say certainly before October of 2024, we were then again deemed FedRAMP moderate equivalent. And we have been since. We've had multiple JSVAs that were successfully completed in the October through December timeframe. And just recently as last month, we also had another C3PAO that's gone through their DIBCAC assessment, and they were just listed in the marketplace, McConley and Asbury. So they did that through the PreVeil platform. Moving forward, it's our understanding that CPPAOs will not be inspecting the FedRAMP moderate equivalent body of evidence beyond ensuring that it's complete and that the information is timely. They won't be able to challenge particular scans or anything like that. So we don't see any issues moving forward. And in fact, we just completed our annual affirmation with a 3PAO that was done right before Thanksgiving, and that is on FedRAMP V5. So we just had our latest attestation completed through a 3PAO on FedRAMP V5, and they found us to have 0 POAM. So we're in full compliance with FedRAMP moderate equivalency.
Nice, impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we've got a dedicated team that's spent several years going through the process, maintaining the process. It's a significant investment for our organization, something we certainly don't take lightly. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yep, thanks.
Great. So, the beauty of PreVeil is it is a very lightweight SaaS solution. It's designed to be something that can be installed in literally under an hour. And I've actually onboarded multiple CPPAOs and other partners, and my onboardings are literally under an hour. Works seamlessly with your existing business applications, whether you're using Office, whether you're a Google Shop. We do have the ability to integrate with both of those. But most importantly, PreVeil is itself a self-contained platform that lives exclusively within AWS GovCloud. So anything that you're storing, sharing, sending through PreVeil sit exclusively within AWS GovCloud, and it's also end-to-end encrypted such that nothing is ever decrypted until it reaches an authorized recipient's device. So even though we use GovCloud only ever sees encrypted data. AWS can never decrypt your information. PreVeil can never decrypt your information. It can exclusively be decrypted by authorized recipients and senders. Where, again, we do provide not just the platform, but we do provide a lot of compliance support, both through our compliance team, through our partner networks. And again, we've had over a dozen successful JSVAs, and now 2 authorized CPPAOs, and I think we've got a few more that are going through the process as well. Again, the core of the platform is encrypted mail and encrypted drive and file storage. PreVeil isolates all of your information such that it lives exclusively within the PreVeil platform, with the backend being AWS GovCloud, everything being end-to-end encrypted as well. So not only can we support CUI, CMMC, we also support ITAR, and we actually cover ITAR multiple ways, both through the end-to-end encryption, which is recognized by ITAR, as well as AWS GovCloud is fully ITAR compliant as well. We strongly believe in zero trust security. We leverage end-to-end encryption. There are no passwords with the main PreVeil system. Instead, everyone is cryptographically authenticated. We don't have any central point of attack. You'll see we have this concept of an approval group, which ensures that there's no single one admin that has kind of the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. Instead, any sensitive transactions require multiple approvals. And then lastly, we have something called trusted community that ensures at the organizational level and or individual level, we're explicitly allowing access to exchange information on the PreVeil platform. And that really does help control the flow of CUI. PreVeil Express, I'll just touch upon that very quickly. That's for third parties that need to easily exchange information. Think of this as similar to DoD Safe, where you can go in, you don't have to install the PreVeil client. This is for non-managed, non-organizational users, but they can access the same end-to-end encryption that PreVeil offers without having to actually install any software. We do have a robust partner community. If anyone here is interested in learning more about joining our partner community, we have referral options, we have options for managed service providers, and if there are any CPPAOs on this call as well, we have a separate program for authorized CPPAOs that we manage separately to ensure there's no conflict of interest. But we do heavily rely on our partner community to solve our customers' challenges. Okay, so that ends the presentation.
Open up for questions. You might have some questions on what James covered so far, or any other questions you have about PreVeil.
This is Mark. If a corporation uses PreVeil, then the devices are in scope. That's correct.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, unless unless they're accessing PreVeil through a VDI. And that's consistent with all cloud services per the DoD scoping guide. The VDI is really the only way you can take an endpoint out of scope.
Right, and so that was kind of the point. Was you said there is an option to do a VDI with PreVeil?
We will support VDI. Yeah, we have some customers that leverage PreVeil in a VDI. We don't currently offer one. We're actually exploring that through AWS Workspaces, but that would be a second half of 2025 initiative. But yes.
Jamie, I guess if you also can talk more about initiatives that PreVeil has supporting your customers with protecting the endpoints that are in scope.
Yeah, if you're not using a VDI, we do have best practices that we are making available to our customers on how to secure the endpoints. It's certainly not exhaustive because there are a lot of different ways you can do that, but we are putting together, we'll have released later this month, a very detailed guide. I think it's over 40 pages of exactly how to configure for the first version, a Microsoft environment plus PreVeil, how to ensure that is compliant. Again, this is based off feedback from the C2PAO community, from lessons learned going through assessments with our customers. And this is something that we think will help our customers ultimately achieve compliance much easier. It's designed to be built using the Microsoft Business Premium license, which is kind of the small business license, which is at a significant price reduction over even just their standard E3, E5, let alone GCC high type of license. So we think that will help the community at large, and in particular our customers.
So Jamie, tell us a little bit about how an installation would go and how the setup. I know you guys have a pretty extensive CRM.
We do, yeah. So we have a shared responsibility matrix, that is very detailed, does go down, to the assessment objective level. And of course, it's designed to help organizations understand, where PreVeil plays the role, where the customer has to, have input. And it is restricted exclusively to the use of PreVeil. Of course, if you have CUI in other facets of the organization, that would be outside the scope of our CRM. As far as deployment, again, PreVeil being a SaaS solution, there is a local client install that can typically be done in a matter of minutes, assuming that you do have admin privileges. Typically with larger organizations, the admins will install PreVeil silently, and they'll just have their users claim their account. The way to claim an account is by simply accessing an email, getting a one-time code, and then establishing your account that way. So it's very quick. Again, I've personally installed PreVeil for a number of C2PAOs, as well as some of our other partners. And I've never gone over an hour to create an org, add a few users, and go through a basic training. And that was actually something that I know, Derek, we were going to offer the opportunity for folks that are interested to get access through CPN. So maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, as far as the partnership with PreVeil and CPN, as y'all know, CPN, we're really focusing on developing assessors and consultants. The way we view it is the CAICO provide the certification training, but not any hands-on or practical training at all. So that's where CPN wants to help develop assessors. And part of that is providing that hands-on training. Speaking with Jamie, he offered essentially give CPN, select number of CPN members access to a PreVeil non-production environment to get some hands-on experience working with PreVeil. Give those consultants and assessors experience hands-on working with PreVeil to better equip you to advise your clients who are considering PreVeil or that's currently using PreVeil. I think that's going to be a good initiative. We'll be doing that. Probably one of our first initiatives we're kicking off as far as the hands-on training. Would you be interested in serving in that pilot where we get some hands-on experience with PreVeil?
So tell us a little bit more about what that would entail for each of us.
Within CPN, we're going to set up CMMC pathways so members will self-select. If you want to select the assessor pathway, for example, or the implementer pathway, and then we'll have certain modules of training under each pathway. For example, a CPN member that selects the implementer or consultant pathway, they can undergo this pilot. For example, it's over 8 weeks, and we set up a fictitious defense contractor and work through setting up the CMMC level 2 requirements for that fictitious contractor. configuring PreVeil, and then also configuring the devices that will be accessing PreVeil. So essentially preparing that fictitious contractor for CMMC level 2 certification assessment, to document all of that and have that as a resource for our members for training purposes. Instead of just kind of talking about the requirements, you're going to actually get hands-on experience with the configuration. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's good. I was also thinking about how that would actually happen in each of our companies, because obviously we all have work email addresses. Not sure how our companies are going to feel about us using PreVeil, if that means we install something on our computer or servers, or how that works. Just kind of what I think.
Jamie, what are your thoughts as far as what are the logistics of how that would work? The personal emails instead of work email?
Yeah, they could certainly use a personal email. Yeah, the goal here is just to create an org, and we can allow access to any users within that org. This would be obviously just for demo purposes. So just diving right in, just the first thing I'll highlight real quick here is this pop-up. You'll see we do have an advisory that clearly identifies this as a CUI-enabled device. So this is just something that's in there to meet one specific control. It only comes up if you're starting a new session, but since I had it up there, I wanted to show everyone kind of our CUI warning message. So moving on, what I'll dive right into is the PreVeil admin console. This is where you'll be managing users. This is where a lot of the functionality comes in, as far as if you're going to be assessing a customer, what will you be looking for? So first thing when we pop into the admin console is we'll see all of our actual users. And if I wasn't an admin, of course, I wouldn't have this tab. I just have the mail and drive. But as an admin, I'll be able to go in here and specifically do some things like device management. I'll be able to see the specific devices this user has PreVeil active on. And if needed, I can actually remotely lock and or delete that device for that user. So let's say they upgrade their iPhone and this one is no longer active. I can just quickly go and delete it. It'll remove the PreVeil app. It'll remove all of the information on that device. And it'll basically, the PreVeil will no longer be active on that device. Or if somebody just says, you know what, I lost my device, I can just quickly go and lock it so that the PreVeil information is not accessible. But if they find it, we can unlock it. If we need to add users, it's as simple as hitting this little plus button, and we can add them individually, or we can just do a group upload if we've got a lot of users to add. Pretty straightforward. And then as far as some of the other things that are important, I talked about approval groups. This is where if we need to do a sensitive activity, like say we need to export data, and I'll get to this in just a minute. First one I'll focus on is maybe account recovery. So again, because PreVeil does not have a traditional username and password, in order to recover an account, we really have to present the user's private key. Of course, that's a very sensitive transaction. We don't want to have any one individual that has access to back up private keys. So instead, we have this concept of an approval group. The way this works is you've got to have a minimum of 2. It's got to be a minimum of 2 out of 3, and you can set this, to meet whatever your corporate risk threshold is. In this case, for an executive, we set it at, it needs a minimum of 3 out of 6. This is all workflow based through the PreVeil app. But in this case, if one of the executives loses access to their PreVeil account, we can get that recovered through what's called a recovery group / approval group. And it's just it does require a K event. So it's always got to be a minimum number and out of a larger approver pool. Once those minimum number of approvers go ahead and grant that transaction to take place, the key is then recovered and the executive, will get their account back in this example. And again, we use this for a few other sensitive transactions like data export, which I'll get to in just a minute. We also talked about, trusted community. this is where we're able to kind of control the flow of CUI, well, of information through PreVeil, and it does work bidirectionally. So if I turn this on, which we would recommend it be turned on for any customers that are leveraging PreVeil for compliance, this now restricts who they can share information with, both sending and receiving. So if I know I'm doing a lot of work with Lockheed in this example, of course, we'll add them as an authorized domain. And what this will also do is this will restrict users, let's say, from sending information to a personal Gmail account that they create a free PreVeil account on. As long as Gmail isn't listed here, which we would never recommend that they authorize that, then that type of transaction would be blocked. And I'll show you an example of what that looks like in just a minute. Some of these things I'm intentionally going to skip because they're purely user-centric. There's no compliance or
Jamie.
Yep.
So if an email domain isn't listed here, somebody can't send it. So is this whitelist or blacklist? Because if it's whitelist, that's not easy because it could be emails can be going to a million different emails. But so is this white or black?
Yeah, so this is denied by default. So this would be a blacklist if we turn this on. Well, sorry, this would be, you would have to explicitly authorize the domains that you want to exchange information with.
Okay.
Yep.
The whitelist. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Now, of course, you can add them very easily. You can do a CSV again. We can do individual. And it doesn't have to be a specific email address. It can just be a domain.
Okay.
Yep. And again, it's optional, but we feel that it's a strong both security, and compliance capability. Because again, if you're just exchanging, sensitive regulated information through PreVeil, you really do want to know who that's going to. And this gives you some assertion that your users aren't sending CUI either nefariously or accidentally to organizations and or users, that they shouldn't be sending it to. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Great. So we do have activity logs. The system unfortunately hasn't been used in a couple of weeks. There we go. Because it's a demo environment, but you'll see we have the ability to search for different logs here. And all of these logs can be exported. And in fact, there's a much more robust set of logs that if you actually export them, you'll get access to. This is just kind of some high level system activity. But these can all be exported. Now we do have a SIM connector. So if somebody's already using a SIM service, they can leverage our SIM connector to automatically ingest the logs, or they can also do a manual export of logs. And it does require, again, that approval group, because this is, of course, going to be sensitive information. And we want to make sure that we've got an approval group established if we're going to do something like export logs. The gateway, I can't demo this. This is an additional service, but this is also important. This allows a non-PreVeil user and a PreVeil user to communicate through email seamlessly without the non-PreVeil user ever having to do anything on their end whatsoever. The way this works is it works off a unique subdomain. So there's two things that have to happen. I have to authorize that third party, similar to how I have the trusted community. We would have basically a secure email gateway community. And then the second thing they have to do is they just have to send it to a unique subdomain. So for example, here I'm Jamie at PreVeil. My email gateway email alias would be something like Jamie Jamie at cui.preveil.com. So it does use a unique subdomain, but the reason for that is once the gateway sees that unique email address, it will automatically forward it through PreVeil to me. And that third party, again, never has to do anything, just send it to that unique subdomain. So some common use cases here are if you're working with a military organization, DoD, that cannot create a PreVeil account. We do have some that will, some that have not. That's a great way to communicate with them. Same thing with primes. We have some primes that use PreVeil, some that do not. It's an easy way to seamlessly exchange information there as well. The most important thing here is the drive sync default setting. I haven't gotten to drive yet, but when I do, you'll see that you have the ability both to sync files locally or just leave them in the PreVeil cloud. And in fact, we have the ability now through CloudLock to do this at an admin level. So if we don't want our users to sync any information down to their local device at an administrative level, as an admin, I can turn this on globally for my organization. And this will ensure that users can't sync any information down to their local computer. They will simply work within the PreVeil cloud. And I'll show you that in just a second. And then the last thing we have is user device management. So we can, as an admin, either allow users to add PreVeil to multiple devices, or we can restrict this so that users can only add PreVeil to one device. And then we can allow on a one-off basis for additional users to add PreVeil to additional devices. And then this is a kind of a niche capability, but we did have a couple customers that want to further restrict adding PreVeil only to trusted devices. If they want to do that, they can do that through a root certificate. Any questions so far on kind of the admin level controls? And if not, again, here is access to my PreVeil environment. You'll see the little green arrow. That means that folder has been synced locally, versus a non-green arrow means that this is exclusively living in the PreVeil cloud. If I just go and access a folder here, you'll see I can open this as a native document. It's a little small, but yeah. And this will work for a number of document types that we can work directly within the PreVeil cloud. Alternatively, some companies want to work on things that they sync locally. And let me see that they can do through here. You'll see I've got most of the same folders here synced locally, except for some of the ones that are not showing up with green on here. So if I just go into, for example, this folder, and you'll see, of course, these, again, the little green check marks mean that this file has been synced back to the PreVeil cloud and is stored in AWS GovCloud. If I want to share a folder out, just click over here. And again, I'll see that this folder is currently unsynced. And if I want to go ahead and grant access to additional users, one thing I didn't mention, but it's important, is to understand that you don't use a preveil.com email address. When you're creating a PreVeil account, it will be using your existing email address or whatever email address you want to assign to your PreVeil account. Unless you can work for PreVeil, that's the only time you would actually get a PreVeil email account. And you'll see I've got different permissions here. I can give you, yep.
Don't people a lot of times have two different email addresses? One is their kind of normal one, and then one is their CUI email, or do most people switch?
Good question. It's really the only time it's required to have two is if they're using the email gateway. The email gateway requires that unique subdomain. But otherwise, people will typically leverage their existing email address within their PreVeil account as well.
And they don't, so let's say they're using Microsoft 365, they don't have to go up into GCC or GCC High or AWS GovCloud or with their, well, I guess with O365, that's GCC or GCC High. They can stay in GC or in commercial, even
That's
though
right.
commercial doesn't have FedRAMP anymore.
Yep. Yeah, because the reason for that they can do that is they're not using their O365 environment for storing, processing, transmitting CUI. That's what PreVeil is used for, and PreVeil is isolating all of the information that's within PreVeil will never be stored or transmitted through that O365 environment. It's exclusively being stored within AWS GovCloud. So it's a PreVeil itself is a closed network, and if a PreVeil user sends to another PreVeil user, it goes exclusively through AWS GovCloud. If they're using the email gateway, then it will be encrypted using whatever means the sender uses, and it will eventually be sent exclusively to that user's PreVeil account. Again, never touching their O365 server. Now, you bring up a good question, and I'll just jump into email here since we're on that now. Here is my PreVeil demo environment. I'm using this directly in Outlook. I've got a regular inbox here. I've got a couple other encrypted inboxes. I can either send this as an encrypted message, or I could send it as a non-encrypted message. And this would just be going now through my regular O365, if that's what I'm using. But once I turn encryption on, I know this is going exclusively through PreVeil and through the AWS GovCloud mechanism.
So, and I've heard some people say this is a little bit concerning, that now you're leaving a lot of this to user behavior and users have to do it correctly. And they have to remember which, the encrypted one or the non-encrypted one. Now it becomes more painful. And from an assessment perspective, it's like, well, how do we know that all your people are using the encrypted one when they should be with CUI versus not?
Sure. It does require, some user training and awareness. You can also, of course, set up mail filter rules to ensure that, CUI isn't going through the regular email. But there's nothing that requires you to ensure, that 100% of the time everything is being sent properly. That's not what assessors are supposed to be looking for. They're supposed to be ensuring that organizations have a compliant means to transfer information, and that they're following those means, as either through some combination of user training, policies and procedures, technical controls. There are a number of different ways you can go about that. We also do, if you are, let's say, using the PreVeil client through Outlook, we do also have some keyword searches built in. So if I type CUI in a message, you'll see it's going to automatically encrypt it. ITAR, secure. There's a number of different key terms, and this is actually something that's customizable. So even though I was in my unencrypted email, the moment that I put a key term in, I think secure, ITAR, it automatically converts it to an encrypted message. So it is an additional technical control there to ensure that messages are being sent properly.
Could you make it so everything was just encrypted all the time? Is there any negative to
that? So yeah, if you're using, the your regular email address, you probably wouldn't want to do that, because unless your work is exclusively handling CUI, if you're just answering emails from the sales team that has nothing to do with CUI or HR or any other non-sensitive emails, then those are fine to go through your regular email. You probably want to go through your regular email, especially if it's external to users that don't have PreVeil, because otherwise, if you send a PreVeil message, here's an example. If you go to send a message to somebody that does not have PreVeil, I don't know why that did that. Sorry, it will ask them, to create a PreVeil, a free PreVeil account. So that is, obviously not something that you want to do unless it is a sensitive, secure message. There we go. And I did just mention, I would show you an example of a message sent through Trusted Community. Here's an example where when I had this turned on, sent it to this specific email address, and because Trusted Community was enabled, the email did not go through. So you do get feedback if Trusted Community is turned on and you try to send a message to somebody that, shouldn't be receiving it or isn't currently in your Trusted Community, and you can go ahead and add them. And again, we've support over 1,500 customers today. We've had well over a dozen, go through the JSVA program. Majority of those were using commercial O365. I don't know if we've had a Gmail user go through yet. I think we had one or two that were on GCC, but the majority are using commercial O365, including multiple C3PAOs now that have been authorized through DIBCAC. So our solution is proven, and it also brings in robust security because again everything is end-to-end encrypted, such that no third party, including PreVeil, including AWS, can ever decrypt the information that's stored within the PreVeil platform.
I had a question. So if the sync is turned on the end between cloud and endpoint, and that endpoint is that drive is already encrypted, are we saying it's double encrypted, that file? So boot up, you got to decrypt there, and then Windows runs, and then it'll be encrypted by the PreVeil client that's installed locally on the endpoint, like a Wintel machine. I'm just trying to understand the logic.
So we are encrypting, of course, everything in transit and everything that is being stored in AWS GovCloud. So before anything leaves my device, it's encrypted, and it's never decrypted until an authorized recipient accesses that information. We do not currently encrypt it locally. We may do that in a future iteration, but we do recommend that you have local device encryption if you are syncing information locally.
Okay. So that sync actually doesn't sync locally. It's synced to like a PreVeil soft client, or am I misunderstanding?
No, yeah, it's syncing directly to my local machine. Directly, this is now part of my file explorer. So these documents with the little green check mark, these are all locally active on my device, and they are not encrypted unless I have, full disk encryption of some sort or some other type of encryption turned on. One other thing that we do point out, and we make this is important, and it does come up in assessments, is we do not automatically sync anything here to our OneDrive. If we're in commercial O365, that would be a big no-no, because then we would be putting CUI into a non-compliant cloud. So it is important, and we make sure our customers are aware of this, that if you're syncing locally, do not also sync to OneDrive.
Thank you for the response.
Sure. So I know we're coming up on time here. I assume most people will need to drop off. I'm happy to answer any other last minute questions we have. And again, this session was recorded. I will make it available to Derek to share out with everyone that was on the call. And if anyone does have any questions, I will put in chat my contact info. So again, I'm the Director of Channels and Alliances. I'm also a CMMC certified professional. I support our compliance team as well. Wonderful meeting you all. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and hopefully we'll be working with some of you in the future. And I don't know if James is here. I know he has worked with us, currently works with us. All right. Thanks, everyone.